Hi everybody, I'm Teresa. Thanks for coming over to my channel, and this is my second video. So today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely little Grammy and Pops pumpkin patch. I am going to also show a little bit about the little pumpkins. They're going to have all of the names of my in-laws' grandchildren. They have 7 in total. I'm not going to show adding on the names just because that's not something that I'm going to be sharing with anyone on YouTube, or the names of my kids or my nieces and nephews. And hopefully everyone understands that. And I also am going to be showing how to make the yard signs you'll see in the pictures here. They were a lot of fun to make, and I'll share some tips and tricks because I've made one a completely different way and came to the conclusion that it didn't really work out as well. So I'll share with you what you'll need to do to make it a little bit better, since I have now made 2 of them. So don't forget to subscribe and leave me a comment below. I'm also going to share a link below that will have the file for you to download as a printable, or that you can use with your Cricut or Silhouette so you can make your very own. So stay tuned and take a look, and hope to see you back soon. Thanks. Bye.
So first we're going to start out with making our yard sign, and we're going to paint our jack-o'-lantern sign first. Use whatever orange you like or whatever orange you have. This is one that I had to mix up, and I'm going to remove all of the strings and tags and go ahead and get some wood filler in those holes. I like to press it down on top of that silicone mat and really get it in there, and then I'll flip it over and do the same, pressing it down and really putting in that wood filler. So it really fills in the holes, and you'll come back later on after it's dried and sand it down. And I was a little impatient, so I went ahead and went in with my heat gun to try and speed up the process of drying. So it helped a little bit. It's better probably just to wait, and so I'm going to go ahead and go off frame a little bit and sand it down. And then I'm going to wipe everything down and start to paint. You're going to try to avoid all of the raised areas. Those are going to be black, so it's not the end of the world if you get any of your orange paint on it, but just go through and paint all of your orange pumpkin part, or hey, maybe you decide to do a different color. If you end up doing something else, it'll be just as cute. So just go in and fill in all of the orange areas. If it's not overwhelmingly opaque, I wouldn't worry too much about it, because we are going to go in just a minute and shade some of it, and also it's, you know, it's a lighter wood color, so if it's not completely full of that orange, it's not the end of the world. You can do a lot of different things with these pumpkins, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to go ahead and get a finer brush, a little bit smaller of a square brush in there to get in between all of the teeth of the jack-o'-lantern. I think that the flatter brushes are a lot easier to use on this particular project. So once you've gotten that done, go ahead and break out the black that you're going to use. This is just an acrylic paint that I used. The other one had a mixture of acrylic, chalk paint, lots of different things, and it's thick enough to where I got away with just doing one coat, both of them, one coat on the orange and one coat on the black. So you're just go in and fill in. I like to do, for the most part, the outside part first, and then kind of fill in the middle, so you can hopefully avoid getting too much of it on the black or on the orange. And if you do get some of it on the orange, it's not the end of the world. Again, you'll see in a minute, we're going to go in and shade some of it. So I don't know what it is about painting, but when I paint, it's just therapeutic. I have no idea if it's just the fact that you are focusing so much on something else, not having to worry about your day's troubles or listen to your kids screaming in the background, which at this point in the day they probably were. So I just sometimes I just shut my door and let my husband deal with it. So this might have been one of those nights. So once you're finished filling all of that in, you're going to let him dry. And see, I'm going to just kind of go back in and touch up where it didn't didn't take as well, or it wasn't completely opaque, you can leave it as it is. I chose just to kind of fill in a little bit, just since that brush was already dirty, so why not? And once I'm done with that, sometime today, we'll be able to let it dry, and we're gonna check on the other side. Oh, so we're done with that. This right here, this particular color is just had a little bit more brown to it, and I decided I didn't like it for the border. Just it didn't seem to be what I wanted, so I took that color and just added a little bit more of the brown to it. Again, we're just going to go in and shade, so just find whatever color works best for you. Use your orange and then add in some brown or whatnot. And here I put it a little bit too heavy, so I just wiped it away a little bit with a paper towel, and go in and just do all of your shading around your raised areas first. That'll give a little bit more dimension to your pumpkin, to your jack-o'-lantern, and it's just gonna kind of make it pop a little bit more. Not that it doesn't, because you've got your, black on orange traditional Halloween colors. He's so adorable though, isn't he? Even if he has a little bit of a toothy smile. So then I'm going to take that same paint and go all the way around the pumpkin, and I'm going to probably put a little bit more in the bottom parts of the pumpkin. See that shot just started over again because for whatever reason this project has been like my one that just doesn't seem to want to record. I messed up on the recording on this at least 3 times. And I'm gonna focus in a little bit more on the shading on the bottom and on the stem. Those just kind of seem like the areas that are gonna be a little bit more. And here I'm gonna go and give my pumpkin some lines and make him look a little bit more rounded, since obviously it's a flat piece of wood. And this just gives him a little bit more dimension, a little more, I won't call it real, but a little more realistic look to him. And again, I'm just gonna shadow, I can't talk tonight. Gonna shadow in some of the stem and the base. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a faux stain. I was originally gonna stain the back of my pumpkins with like a real wood stain, but I was feeling a little lazy. It didn't really feel like going out into the garage, getting the stain out, getting it all over the place. I don't know about you, but I am so horrible about putting on regular shoes when I'm trying to run around the house doing things, so I just usually go out in flip-flops, and I end up with little dots of stain all over my feet. So, as you can tell, which not really you can't tell because it's out of frame, the next one will be in frame, I promise. I did this one is a lot lighter. It's actually with the Waverly in Hazelnut, and I just put some water in there and I go over it lightly one time and then kind of go over it again. I'm gonna let that little guy dry. So now this one I will actually be in frame so you can see it, which is nice, isn't it? Nice of me to do that. So you can see it takes pretty well. It will lighten up quite a bit compared to the way that looks right there. Just to be warned, once these guys dry, they do lighten up a lot. And I know you can see a lot of the, we'll call it a stain for the lack of a better word. You see a lot of the stain in one spot. Once you go over it a second time, it'll make it a lot smoother, a lot less streaky. So if you've done it the one time, and then you're going to go back in and do it again. See, I kind of started in a different spot, and it helps blend it in. Plus, it's a pumpkin. It's not going to be perfect. So next, I decided I didn't feel like wasting that little bit of paint that was on my mat, so I just scooped it up with my paintbrush and added it into that water to make the faux stain. So I made 2 pumpkins, a little bit of a lighter colored stain, and then 2 pumpkins are going to be a little bit darker. And I really liked the way the darker ones ended up, so if you wanted to do them all the same, I would definitely go with the darker side. This one had, that paint does have a lot of the Waverly truffle in it, so that's a good way to kind of go. And one thing I thought of after the fact that would have been really cute, if you took that orange paint and watered it down and made it into a stain, that would have been adorable, and I wish I'd thought about it before I actually went in and did it. So again, once I gotten it all over the pumpkin, I'm going to kind of go back over it just to try to smooth out, make it a little more seamless. And once he's done, I'm just going to plop him over there and go in with another coat, or not another coat, sorry, another pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and work on him. And he got a lot wet, or a lot more of the water, I think, than the first one did. So, but it's nice because it does show off a little bit of that wood grain that's in the wood pumpkin, and they're just nice the way they are. If you want to leave them plain, or if you want to paint them, you'll see at the beginning, I think you'd seen that I put in a picture of my ones that I'd done before, and I'll go ahead and list in the description box below the paint that I used on those ones. And once you're done, once they're dry, you're going to go ahead and do that same shading that you did to the front, the jack-o'-lantern side. And on the lighter ones, I am using that Waverly in Truffle, so it's just kind of like a really light taupey brown, I guess you could call it. So a light brown, and you're just going to go ahead, do the outside part of it to get that little bit of a shadow, and I'm going to really go in a lot heavier on the base of the pumpkin. Since, you know, the bottoms of those pumpkins, you know, when you get them at a pumpkin patch or whatever, they're pretty dirty. So we're going to give that a little bit more of that. And now we're going to go in and do the rounding part of the pumpkin. I don't do it too heavy because these pumpkins, they actually turned out pretty light. So it just kind of depends on how you feel. If you notice the picture on the beginning of the video when I painted them, I did the shading a lot darker, and I didn't like it so much because it does look really obvious that it was painted like this. This one is a lot smoother, a lot better transition from it. So I thought it needed a little more darkened around on the edges and stuff, so I went ahead and pulled out that Waverly Truffle paint and went in with that. So same thing with this guy. I'm going to go ahead and do his shading a little bit darker around the edges. Well, I think, yep, first I think I did the lighter tone on top, and we'll go in and do his rounding shading, I guess you could say. One thing I think, if you end up with like those really splotchy orangish colored areas where you filled in the holes, you can go a little bit darker on the shading up there to kind of try to hide it a little bit. And it just kind of depends on how you end up gluing this guy together with his little friends. Will make it a little bit different. So once you're done with all your shading, you're going to go ahead and paint your little miniature palettes. I'm not going to bore you with painting the whole thing. I just painted it all with that truffle. Now I'm going to make the base for the yard stake, and just going to rip off that little witch's boot. Be careful because they are stapled in there. The staples aren't too long, so it's not too big of a deal. But you're going to go in and take that apart. I would suggest painting it before you start doing anything. I was being rather lazy, so I think I waited until after to paint it. And I think this is the second time I did this. When I was trying to do it the first time around, I tried to pull the ribbon out, and it's just easier just to cut it and pull it out that way. So once you're gotten your stick all ready to go, like I said, it's best to paint it first. I was being really lazy and decided not to. But what I am going to do here in a moment is I am going to go ahead and cut it down. One thing I noticed when I had the full size on my first go around, it ended up bowing quite a bit. I live in the central Orlando area, or central Florida, Orlando area, so we get a lot of heat, a lot of humidity. It doesn't matter that it's technically fall. We won't see fall weather for probably another month or more. So definitely think about doing this if you end up doing this and you live in the southern areas. So it's pretty easy to do. Again, if I wasn't lazy, I would have gone out into the garage with a miter box and cut it down that way. But I just kind of scored it with my X-Acto knife from one side to the other. I did the edges, on the sides of the stick as well. It then just went through and cut it down that way. It was easy enough, so just make sure you're very careful and you don't end up cutting yourself with your X-Acto knife. That's never fun. So, but once you've gotten it kind of trimmed down, it doesn't have to be pretty. It's going to be hidden away anyways, but you want it, for the most part, you want it pretty, cut down, and it can be a little jagged like that. I don't think I'd do too much to it after that point. It's good enough at that point. No, I didn't just touch the blade, I just was tightening it to make sure that the blade doesn't fall out. When I'm doing the pumpkins, you're going to want to do it, if you're doing 4, do it 2 connected to, like 1 connected to the other, let that dry, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to have the lighter side augmented with the darker side, so light, dark, and so on. I think I actually preferred it when I did the 3 pumpkins to the 4 pumpkins. The 4 is a little bit less steady. So I would highly recommend, if you're thinking about doing this, to do it with 3. And you definitely don't need to use these particular pumpkins. You could also really just get away with using plain pumpkins that you find from anywhere. I think I saw them at Amazon, and again, like I said, this video was cursed, it seemed like, because once I decided I was going to make the video, I couldn't find the pumpkins, and then I ordered some pumpkins off of Amazon for like 3 times the price. They came in, and that same day that they came in, I was able to find these pumpkins. So I do hit it up with a generous amount of E6000, and I'm going to clamp it down and let it sit overnight once I've gotten it into kind of the right spot. You can do them straight up and down, you can do them kind of at this little wonky angle, wonky stacked pumpkins kind of thing. I thought it was a little cute and a little different. My first ones, I think I tried to do them a little weirdly stacked, and they ended up falling. So I think by the time I glued them back together, they were evenly stacked. So, yep, you're gonna E6000 that guy, and I'm trying to clean up my mess that I made and making sure that I didn't make a huge mess of the other side. And I don't think I made too bad of a mess on the back. So you're just going to clip them, and I would recommend, if you see those red clips that are longer, get some of those little pink ones that are in the craft or square section are really nice, but those red ones over in the top part of the screen, those ones are actually over in like their automotive section, and they're great. I'm definitely going to grab a couple of those the next time I see them. You see, my very technical use of a screwdriver there is to rub the E6000 off. And there I'm looking at it just to kind of make sure that it looks like it's even or even-ish. The way, however, which way it is, I'm going to keep it. And so I'm going to put him aside, and I'm going to grab my other guy, my other pumpkin guys, and glue those ones together next. Again, I wanted to make sure I had it the right way, where the lighter one is either on the bottom. Yeah, I think I put the lighter one on the bottom, or darker one on the top, or either way, making sure that they're every other. And you want to make sure your pumpkins, if you're going to make them off, lopsided, you want to make sure that they're lopsided in the right direction, where one goes left, the other goes right. I don't think I did a great job at it, but it worked out, so they're still cute. Hopefully they don't fall over. I just put them out in my yard this morning, so I hope that they decide to stay together better than the last ones did. So you're going to make sure these guys are put together, and here in a minute I am going to start to speed up, since you've already kind of seen this process. Alright, so we're going to clip those together, let them dry like the other ones, and you're going to kind of go through, make sure if you had any glue run over, you're going to clean that up. And this time it was a little bit better because I used my X-Acto knife instead of using my screwdriver for that. Yep, you're going to put down your E6000. See, I redid it because it just did not work out the right way the first time around. You're going to do your E6000 on your stake, and you're going to clip that into place. I did it a little higher on this time around. The last time when I made these, I did it lower, and it just kind of depends on what you're trying to go for. Since I had 4 pumpkins, I felt like I needed to make it a little bit lower. Or I mean, a little bit higher up on the pumpkins. So here you've got, you've glued down your stake, you've kind of dried a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down my palettes. And you just put down, like I said, a generous amount of that glue. And I'm going to throw in some hot glue as well. And of course, I wasn't patient enough, and I started gluing that down when it wasn't really hot enough yet. We're going to make it work anyways, so let's see. We're going to go ahead and try to put them together. Again, you're going to try to match them up with the sides that meet the best. If you think about it when you're in store, if you haven't already gotten your supplies for this, if you don't happen to just have it in your stash and you're buying for this project specifically, go ahead and try and find something that matches up a little bit better. And then once you're gluing it down, you're going to kind of press it down, and as you can tell, I go back and decide, yeah, that hot glue wasn't hot at all, so I'm going to just peel it off and put down some hot glue that is actually hot enough. And maybe in the future I guess I'll just be a little more patient, because I'm sure this took a lot more time than what it would have been if my glue was hot enough. So let me go in with my hot glue gun. Eventually, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna get, yep, see, there you go, hot glue. All right, so hot glue gun, you're gonna put it on the parts that are gonna meet up with the palette, and then also you're gonna put it on the stick. That'll give you a little bit better of a hold. Again, make sure you're not only doing this with hot glue, especially if you have any kind of heat and humidity like we do here in Florida. So I'm just going to hold it there for just a second or two or 10 to go ahead and get it to settle in a little bit. And you've got that E6000 on there too. And this, I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but my daughter is arguing with my husband right now about going and laying down. So I'm going to remove any of that hot glue that kind of seeped through the cracks, so you can so you don't have to see it when you actually put down your any kind of decorations that you're going to put on the front. See, like I've got my welcome. I already spray painted it just a basic white. I think this is like a white with a primer built in, and you can put really whatever you want there. You could put a big bow, you could put any of the wording, you could print something out if you have a Cricut with vinyl that is, you know, could hold up to the elements outside. And if I don't fumble too much around with this glue, I'm going to go ahead and put it down with the E6000, and then I am going to go in with the hot glue gun. That way you can really get a good hold and you don't have to clamp everything down. And I don't know if about you, but does anybody else's E6000 like dry up like crazy on the tip, where you're like really working to be able to get it to I don't know if you can hear him, but my husband's just telling my daughter, go lay down. Oh, I swear it's like never ending here. So yeah, so hot glue and E6000, find a good spot for your sign or your welcome or whatever kind of wording you're wanting to put in there. I'm going to go in and push it down, put on my lovely little pink silicone finger guard thing, and if I get any glue that kind of bubbles up, I'm going to wipe it away a little bit here so I don't have to go back after and remove that glue. So I think I've got it pretty good on there. I think I actually checked it earlier today, and my sign hasn't fallen apart, so it's a good sign. So you're gonna let that settle in a little bit, and you're gonna go ahead and flip that puppy around, and you're gonna work on the Halloween side. Now on this, I could not for the life of me figure out what I wanted to do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint that little bit that came up when you removed the boot. and you're gonna just paint that over. I just did black. If you really wanted to have the stick a different color, you could definitely go in with something else. For the time being, I just painted right where the brown was coming through so I could kind of get this project going. At this point, I kind of tried a couple of different things and I decided on making a little bow. I did this little finger bow technique. I don't know if you've ever seen Unicorn Dust Design do it. She does it way better than I do, but I kind of got the idea from her. She's awesome. If you haven't seen her channel, go check her out. I will link her below. So I'll go ahead and make this little bow. I'm awful at bows, so I'm sure that you're much better at bows than I am, so please, for all that is good, please make a better bow than me. So just glue it down with some hot glue or E6000, whatever you prefer to use. And then I'm gonna just kind of off camera, I am gonna glue the top half onto my pumpkins. There they are, and all of their adorableness. And there's my daughter telling me she needs to go potty. All right, I'm back. Sorry. She always makes it. She just always feels the need to inform me. So yes, this is our Halloween side, and there's our fall side, and it's super adorable. Again, I'd probably go with the darker side. So here I'm just gonna start off a new DIY for you. This is gonna be my little pumpkin patch for my in-laws. I'm gonna fill in any of the holes on the pumpkin, and I did do that on some of the other ones that you'll see here in a minute as well. And here's my larger side. It is, I did record it at some point in time. It was really big and orange from the Dollar Tree. And so when I was figuring everything out, I saw that it was just wide enough, but there was no way that that stem was gonna make it. So I had some, on that side, I did have a little bit of paint that had kind of run over a little bit. So I'm gonna go back through. My lovely glue stick there was kind of running on low on the first go around, so I'm just gonna go around and trace it with my X-Acto knife that the blade desperately needs to be switched out of, and I'm just lazy and haven't done it yet. So I'm going to kind of roughly trace over it and remove the paper where the stem is on the front. I do have the back side painted as well, so it's not this big orange pumpkin that doesn't have its letters and glitter. Any one of the Dollar Tree pumpkin signs will do for this. Or you can also use one of those pumpkins from the first DIY if you wanted to. So you just trace around everything and get it kind of clean. I like to use the bottom part of the X-Acto knife to kind of clean up anything that's just kind of sticking around from the paper. We're just gonna jump right into the text that I put on the front. I did use the Canva app to design this, and then I just uploaded it into Cricut. And it's kind of nice that way because you're not actually paying a ton of money for every month to use it. And I do have it backwards here just because the sticky part is, not something I really feel like leaning against every time I'm ready to do it. And so I go ahead and weed through everything, and I'm going to get my transfer tape out. I'm going to link the vinyl and the transfer tape below because I love it. I had bought something previously at Michael's and I think Amazon, and it was just rough. It was like every single thing I thought wasn't going to go, and it was the first time I had used it, and I was just so upset with my choices. So I went ahead and did this Grammy and Pops pumpkin patch, and I'm probably going to spend a good 10 minutes trying to get it to be straight. I don't know if you ever have these problems that I do, but I don't know what it is. I cannot, for the life of me, determine a straight line. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm drawing something. It doesn't matter if I'm placing vinyl down. I can't find a straight line. It's a problem. Anyone else have those problems with finding a straight line? I can't seem to ever do it. So I am going to eventually find a good spot for this to go. So I finally give in and determine that this is going to be at least straight enough. And I do go ahead and peel off the vinyl. It looks super fast here, but I do go a lot slower than that. And I am going to wrap my stem here in this jute twine, just gives it a little bit of texture, plus my paper was not going to reach, so I go ahead and just stick it down on the back side of it. And I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to try to keep it pretty flush and not let a lot of area be seen through from one side to the other. And I'm going to start to glue it a little bit as it gets to that curve. And you'll just kind of keep putting it around the stem as much as you can, and eventually you will have to add in a lot more glue. So what I am doing here is I'm going to add my glue as I go up that curve, and here in a minute I am going to do is add a whole string of glue right there along that curve, so I don't have to keep stopping and gluing, stopping and gluing. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the jute twine. It probably is going to be a little bit too long, but it keeps twisting, so it's just easier just to end up cutting it. And you just kind of, once you get to the edge, you're just kind of finagling it and trying to make it work the best you can. And eventually what you'll do is just add a little bit of glue to the front or a little bit of glue to the back just to finish off that jute twine. And once you've gotten that little bit of twine kind of figured out, you'll be ready to kind of move on to the next part. So I'm going to be using these little wood cubes from the Crafter Square section, and you're going to use those kind of to help it stand up and be your base. Now when you're doing this, what you're going to want to do is try to get them as even as you can, and if it seems like it's going to be harder, what you'll do is to glue two of them together and then glue it to the base of your pumpkin, and that'll help give it a little bit more stability when you're trying to let it sit up like this. See, it kind of wants to wobble over, so what I did off camera was to add it. The two of them stuck together. So here is how Grammy and Pop's pumpkin patch turned out. Again, I am going to add in a lot of little pumpkins with all of the grandkids' names. I just didn't show that on screen, and this particular file is available, linked below in case you want to use it on your own. And here is the Halloween yard sign. They're just super cute. And here is the fall yard sign. And I just want to thank everyone for coming in and taking a look at the video. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you recreate anything, please tag me on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe and comment below. Hope to see you guys back again soon. Plan to be uploading every Wednesday and every Saturday. Hope to see you again soon.